concept was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue society.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. You know, we also hear these scares in the paper, hear them on television rather, and see in the paper about the spread of infectious disease in America. We see the horrific shows and news that detail Skid Row in Los Angeles, California, with rows and rows and it seems like miles and miles of homeless people. We know that there is a policeman in Los Angeles, California right now that's suffering with typhoid fever from being bitten, they say, I think by a rat, and I'll ask Dr. Retard when we finish. And we also know that typhus is back out, typhoid fever, some people are getting that. And I'm worried about the Bubonic Plague, the medieval diseases. So I wanted to bring my friend, Dr. Raoult Retard. I can't pronounce it like he does with his accent. He was partly schooled in Paris. He's an MD and an MPH, and he's our state epidemiologist for the last 20 almost years, 19,
Yes.
20 years. And so we've done Ebola before, which is spreading again in the Congo. I just heard Dr. Retard. And we've done Zika before about a year and a half ago. So thanks for being back with us again,
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Retard. So let's talk about some of these myths and facts on infectious disease. And I want to talk about measles also, because a lot of people aren't vaccinating their children, I understand,
Okay.
afraid of mercury. Let's start with measles. Let's talk about the children.
Measles used to, every child in the US by the age of 4 would have gotten measles. So you had something like 400,000 cases every year. Then thanks to the vaccine, that's an excellent vaccine, it came to almost zero. There have not been a case of measles in Louisiana for years and years. Now we have some people that are afraid of the vaccine, because there were some report of pseudo-scientific study. I say pseudo-scientific because they were not really good scientific studies, and then scared some people about the measles.
About autism, what I read was that
Yes.
autism is caused by too many vaccinations, and the mercury could cause your children to have autism from some of the vaccinations, the measles vaccine.
Yes, that was completely debunked by the good, serious studies.
So you're saying you don't believe it's true from your expertise?
No, it's not I don't believe, I am sure.
You know it's not true from your expertise, okay?
From looking at the studies, looking at the method that they use, they went about it in the wrong way. Measles vaccines prevent you from getting the disease. That disease used to cause pneumonia, encephalitis, some serious complication. Now, if you don't vaccinate your child and he gets measles, if he happens to survive the measles, which usually you survive measles, what the measles disease does is to wipe out a little bit your immune system. It's as if you get partial amnesia. So there were good
You know what
studies.
AIDS does, HIV, does it wipe out part of your immune system?
Yes,
too?
but
Yeah.
HIV does it
HIV, yeah.
in a giant way.
Yes.
Measles, after the disease, your immune system is going to forget about some of the precaution that he has built up. And you have studies that show that children that got the measles disease, they have more infections after that for a period of 2-3 years. So not only they are exposed to measles, but then they can get some other infection that usually, if you didn't get measles, you could easily handle.
Well, what do you think? It's not just they're not vaccinating them. What about the homelessness? And what about some of the illegal immigrants that are coming across our borders? They are not vaccinated as America vaccinates their children. So could that be a part of that also?
It really depends. Some countries have better vaccination rates than the US because there is no fear of vaccines. And so they impose the vaccines. And so,
Honduras, Central America, Guatemala?
you would have to see which part of the country, where it is. It's probably very uneven. Most of the measles that have occurred in the US were imported from Europe, for example, from people that have religious objection to the vaccines. So it's not specially imported from Latin America. It has been imported from Europe and from special groups inside the US. So obviously, anybody that that's not immunized is a risk, but it's important to know the difference between the head of the snake and the tail of the snake.
Let me have the tail before I want that head, right, to bite me, yeah.
So you can fool with the head of the snake, nothing much will happen. Yeah. The head of the snake is the people that don't get the vaccine in the US and in Europe.
Let's talk a little bit. I just want to give people an update on Zika. Ebola, I understand it's no more from the World Health Organization, no more Ebola crisis in the world. Is that what you're hearing? No, not a crisis.
I'm sure, Ebola is still in some
countries,
bats and things like that. And once in a while, somebody is going to come up with Ebola. Probably now people are going to pay attention and not ignore it. Ebola is not a disease that's going to flare up.
Well, we talked about that in our first show. Don't worry about Ebola. Now, Zika is a little bit different case, right? In America now, we have over 3,300 cases. I think about 29 have been in Louisiana.
32, I think.
Yeah, 32 now. And California has a lot. New York, because a lot of people are going back and forth from Brazil.
Lots of imported cases, yes.
But locally grown or locally obtained, none have been in Louisiana.
So far, no.
But Florida, I think, has had some local obtained cases.
Yes.
I guess it was sexually transmitted. Do you know how those were?
No, by mosquitoes.
By mosquitoes.
Yeah. The big difference between West Nile, that's in the bird and it's everywhere, and Zika, dengue, chikungunya, is that it has to be imported by people.
Imported by people.
Yes. And so if one person comes, a mosquito would have to bite that one person. When you have 100 people that are infected that come, you have more chances of getting it to spread. So it's not surprising that South Florida, where you have a lot of people from the Caribbean, from Latin America coming. So a lot of people are coming, and then the virus is in the blood only about 7 days, 1 week. So if you started getting infected outside in the Caribbean, 3-4 days, then you come here, you have 3 days the virus in the blood.
Now what are the symptoms, like a cold?
It's a fever, a little bit like the flu. The fever, conjunctivitis, a mild rash, and then pain in the joints. And to be ready for Zika.
But I understand only about 20% of people who have Zika get sick. Is that a correct number? Some people have it and it does nothing to them.
It depends a little bit on the different outbreaks, but 20-30%, even more, can have no symptoms at all, and some have.
And now, could I transmit it? I have it with no symptoms. Could I give it sexually to somebody else?
Yes,
even if I have no symptoms?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's definitely sexually transmitted.
Yes, we're learning more about that because it's fairly rare.
Is there anything else new that has happened since we last did a show in May on Zika?
You have to be Zika ready, and I'm going to give you that, so you are Zika ready.
Thank you, so I can swat the mosquito. Now,
if you swap any mosquito that comes close to you, you have it made.
Now this is, and we'll put it on the screen, the Aedes aegypti, which we saw, we had him on the last show. That's the mosquito that causes Zika, and also the other one, Danong, doesn't it? The same mosquito? Is it the same or not the same that causes it?
is good for yellow fever, but we don't have that here, and very little in the world. Yellow fever, dengue, Zika, and chikungunya.
And remember, Zika started in the Zika forest in Uganda, Africa. So I would tell people I've read that if you eat garlic, and I did go to Rio since the last show. I had to pick my nephew up, and we were doing some charity work over there. And I ate garlic every day when I was there and before I went.
You were afraid of the zombies or the...
No. No. But when I ate it, nothing came around me. They said they don't like the scent. And I put Zika at the bed.
You see, with that and the garlic, you are
right, I'm good. Get you some garlic. Garlic kills everything, right? Well, remember, the deadliest animal in the world is the mosquito. It's hard to believe, but one of the smallest is the most deadly because malaria is still very prevalent in underdeveloped countries and things, right? So do you expect, did they create a vaccine for Zika and Ebola? Do they have one?
They're working on both.
Both, because Ebola, they were creating a vaccine.
Yes.
And that was 2 years ago, and they still don't have it ready. If it happens again, another
It's
outbreak.
making some progress. And for Zika, they're trying to develop a vaccine.
Yeah.
There is already a vaccine for dengue. Not very useful because every cases are imported, but
Now,
some countries would be useful.
Malaria has a vaccine too, doesn't it?
No,
A
they're
pill
working
you
on-
take when you get ready to go over there. Yeah.
They're trying to work on a vaccine for malaria, but nothing that works very well.
Why? Is it the DNA chain changes in the mosquito, that mosquito, or what?
The parasites, parasites are very smart, and they know how to hide from your immune system.
It's like cancer.
Yeah, they hide a little bit.
They're hiding. What about, we talked about bubonic plague, because, you know, you hear about that with medieval times, but you were telling me prairie dogs carry that bacteria right
Yes.
now in America. And if they bite somebody or bite another animal then you have a scratch on your finger, could you actually get the bubonic plague in this day and age?
Yeah, you can get, but it's only in the western part of the U.S.
Right, like Nevada.
In the old days,
Mexico.
yes, in the desert area.
Yeah.
In the old days, there was no plague in the U.S. Then in 1900, there was an outbreak in China. There were ships coming from Hong Kong to the U.S. And as usual, people look at the tail of the snake instead of the head. So they isolated the Chinese people that were on the ship, and they forgot about the rats. So the rats got out of the ship. They went on shore in San Francisco. They found it was a nice place. And then there was a big earthquake in San Francisco soon after. So I think the rats are not that stupid. They decided this place is too shaky. We're going to move east. And so they moved toward the desert area. And that's when they found the prairie dogs and other rodents. And they established themselves. And when a disease is among the animals, it will never go away.
That's like typhoid fever now, is in some of the rats, I believe, in Skid Row.
Right, typhoid fever,
Typhus, which one? I know they're very different bacteria, totally, right?
Yes.
But very similar symptoms, I've read, with my,
it's very different.
very different.
Typhoid fever is the human salmonella.
Right.
It's not specially transmitted by the rat, it's transmitted by somebody
No, but the
else.
symptoms when you get the two diseases, but I know the bacteria.
You get fever, you
Yeah.
get a high fever and everything else.
Typhus
With
is on
typhoid
fleas,
fever,
right?
yes. What's different with plague is not only you have pneumonia, you have invasion of the blood, they call that sepsis,
Yeah.
and you also have the bubo, the big boils that are oozing a lot of the bacteria. So
That's
you
with
have
typhus or with bubonic plague?
that's the plague.
Oh, wow.
In-
And have there been any cases in the last 50 years of
In the US, every year you would have a few cases, mostly from the area
out west?
where you have prairie dogs and sometimes either hunters, people that go hunting, or some people that have building their houses close to the desert area. They have pets. The pets are going to go play with the prairie dog or maybe bite them. And then the plagues are very nice. They want to share their disease with their owner.
So urbanization, some of the factors that cause some of the infectious disease, that was listed as one because we're moving the animals
We're moving
further and
out.
further
Yes.
away. And so urbanization can cause some of these infectious diseases to be more rampant.
Particularly when you move out of the big cities. Big cities will have their own problem. But you move out into the country, you have different sets of problems. And if you're careful, you can deal with them. But you have to be fairly careful.
What do you think is happening in California? It's, I mean, just where this Los Angeles, San Diego, New Orleans, with the homeless population, but LA seems to have, they're reported as the largest in the country.
It's a-
65,000 homeless in just LA right now.
It shows why we are building toilets. Because all the crap that we produce, we put it in the toilet, we flush it down, it goes to a waste treatment center, and then make it less infectious. If you don't have a toilet next to you, you are going to defecate in the streets. Nobody is there to clean it up. A lot of people are going to walk in it. You don't have a place to wash your hands.
Universal precautions aren't given.
So it's no surprise that you see this disease spreading
But don't you think
out.
that's going to get worse with the homeless problem in America? What do you think? I just saw where the mayor of Austin said it was okay and legal for people to build tents, downtown Austin, Texas. New Orleans has a pretty big homeless population. Nothing like
Yes, but
California. Nothing like
I
California.
suspect it's a very difficult issue to deal with, and I'm not qualified to deal with it.
Right.
But I can tell you it's a bad idea not to have a toilet and a sink
Right. But
available.
40% of the people I've read that are homeless are veterans and have a drug, and even more than that, have a drug issue. So it seems like they need mental help and they need housing, because a lot of them don't even want the housing. But the governor of California just gave $98 billion, I think, to illegals for Medi-Cal, they call it there. But why don't you build some places for your homeless people so that they have somewhere to live? And let's help some of the veterans who dedicated so much to this country to keep us safe.
That's a good question for the governor of
Right.
California.
Governor Newsom, you hear me over here
It's-
from Louisiana.
I deal with the
Yeah.
consequences of not having a
So
toilet.
the Congo, we're going to be getting off in 1 second, but Ebola's back, and we know from our previous show, Ebola is not going to kill anybody hardly in America, right?
No, if somebody comes with Ebola, maybe you will have one person infected. It happens already once in Dallas way back. 2 nurses got infected. Quickly, all the precautions were taken, and that was the end of the story.
I think one guy died in Dallas when we did that right after that show, but he was so sick by the time he flew back from
Yes.
Africa. So do you think it's going to spread every year? They'll have some outbreak in Africa?
There are
Ebola?
outbreaks all the time because
It's from bats, isn't it? Is Ebola
Yes.
from the bats? Yeah.
it's from the bats, and sometimes people are going to get infected. And fairly often too, they get infected, they go to the hospital. If the hospitals are not following the best precautions,
Didn't bleach kill the Ebola virus?
Ebola is easy to neutralize.
Yeah.
It's a big virus, it's easy to neutralize with to inactivate with the bleach.
Yeah.
But the hospitals that are follow poorly precautions, they can be a center that are going to disseminate.
If they're not.
So it's important for these hospitals to learn about the modern ways of preventing transmission.
Well, thank you again, as always, Dr. Retard, for bringing us this wonderful information on infectious diseases around the world and specifically here in America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blues Grand Sweet Spot, specializing in delicious praline creations. This melt-in-your-mouth New Orleans-style praline candy will have you running back for more. So order yours today for your business or private event at Blues Grand Sweet Spot on Instagram and Facebook. Or contact owner and operator Savella Scott directly. Luella, this one's for you, Mama.
Let Lou take care of you, baby.
Excuse me, are you Dianne Andrews?
Yes, I am.
I'm Darius. I'm here to attend your leadership speech.
Oh, thank you for coming. That's wonderful. What's your major? You're in college, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you majoring in?
Construction management.
I tell you, then this leadership management speech that I'm going to do will do you a lot of good.
Well, I always watch your show.
Oh, good. I'm on television and YouTube. I appreciate you watching. Are you headed to the event right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Come on, let's walk together and I can teach you and tell you some things about leadership and management.
Perfect.
Come on, let's go. Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. We just finished getting educated on infectious disease spreading around the world, and specifically here in Louisiana, knowing that there are some typhoid fever cases even here in Louisiana, and talking about the homelessness out in California and the rat infestation with our state epidemiologist, Dr. Raoult Retard. So thanks for coming back. As one of the audience members said, if you get the plague, you're going to have the blues. So I have a blues player here with me. Mr. Henry Turner Jr., who's a songwriter. He's a music documentarian now, and he's going to play us about 30 seconds from the title song on his hit documentary, Music Dreams, An American Story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Long as I live, I will be yours. Long as you live, you will be mine forevermore. Forevermore. I knew that my life would never be the same. I knew just the moment that you uttered my name. And I have embraced the fact that you're in my life. And this is the magic that I've been waiting for. So long as I live, I will be yours. Long as you live.
Thank you, Henry. That was beautiful. Now tell me, you're an entrepreneur because you have 3 of the festivals here in Baton Rouge now. The Soul Food Fest, the Mardi Gras Fest, and now the Henry Turner Jr. Fest. You told me I didn't know about the 3rd one.
Yeah, the Henry Turner Jr. Music Day Festival. And yes, I have 3. I'm what I call a music business entrepreneur. And these 3 festivals are based on what I thought was needs for our community. The first one we developed was a Mardi Gras festival because we had the Spanish Town Mardi Gras parade that had become really huge, but we didn't have an economic development module to keep people in the downtown after and before the parade. So I thought it would be great to add that to the festivities, and
and that's kind of strange that we didn't have a Mardi Gras Fest here in Baton Rouge, right an hour from New Orleans, and it's celebrated here. So that was very entrepreneurial of you to think of that. And how are the 3 festivals going for you? How does that work?
They're doing great. Whenever there's a market gap and a need for something, it's easy to make it happen. The Mardi Gras Festival pretty much took care of itself because you already had 150 to 200,000 people downtown that day. So it was just a matter of converting enough of them to stay and come early and be a part of the festival. And then with the Baton Rouge Soul Food Festival, also our city was well known for soul food in the past decade, but we had a decline of soul food restaurants and soul food culture. So it was easy to make that one happen as well, because all you had to do was get the word out to the communities that a soul food festival was going to happen, and people were going to bring out soul food, and we was going to invite regional cooks from around the area to share. So that was easy as well.
Now, why the documentary?
The documentary was an idea born with Charles Bush. He was a retired Louisiana public broadcaster. And his idea is that any band or music leader that's been around for 30 plus years and have toured and traveled internationally should have a story. And he thought, why not start creating that story now and share with the local community and then spread it out, to the world and give back that way in terms of information and motivation for the next generation.
Now it's a 23 minute.
26 minute, yes.
And you feature Teddy's Jukebox, Teddy on that. I've been out there before. Yeah, that's a fun place.
Yeah, Teddy's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he has an interesting story, and his story is a part of my story. So we found some of the elders in the community, and then we found some of the younger, music people. And we went to the political realm. We got people like Lynn Urso, who's a former music commissioner for the state, and we brought them all in, interviewed them, and worked with filmmakers and so forth. Yeah.
Well, what's next for the Dreams for Henry Turner Jr.?
I've got a lot of interesting things on the board. I'm finishing an album that has taken me about 6 years to do, and
your band is Flavor, right?
Yes. Yeah, Henry Turner Flavor.
Yeah.
And that's the next thing that we're working on. And of course, with this film, there's a lot of promotion. So we're going through a lot of markets. We're going into Chicago and Memphis, and we're gonna do a bunch of stuff in the UK, and just gonna work.
So you're bringing the blues of Baton Rouge all over the world.
we're bringing the music culture of Baton Rouge.
Music
all
culture.
Yeah.
What is the music culture?
Well, Baton Rouge is known mostly for blues, but Baton Rouge has been a strong, growing point for. Well, it's been like I'm gonna call it an incubator for like growing national and international talent. If you can just think about the names that have come from Baton Rouge in all the different genres, but that culture has not been spread to the world. For instance, I was talking to a person in New Orleans on TV at WWL, and we started talking about Baton Rouge, and she was like, "Well, I just don't see Baton Rouge as being this giant music town." And I said, "Okay, let's talk about bands like Cameo." She was like, "Oh yeah, I love Cameo." I said, "Well, Charlie Singleton's from Baton Rouge." And I said,
I didn't even know.
Yeah, so she said, "Well, who else?" I said, "What about American Idol? You really? Oh, that's huge." I said, "Well, Randy Jackson is from Baton Rouge." So you can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
But people don't talk about the music culture of Baton Rouge. They talk about the political culture, the food, and all that. So now we spread the music too.
Well, glad to have you here on
Pleasure's
Dianne
mine.
Andrews in Black and White, and good luck with Music Dreams, an American story.
Yeah.
You have a festival coming up in October.
Yes, that's the Henry Turner Jr. Day Festival. And also Amazon Prime now has the documentary available. If people want to watch it and review it and that kind of stuff.
And you can,
They can rent
is it on
it,
Netflix
purchase.
or anything like that? Where you can,
No, it's not on Netflix yet, but we're working on that.
Okay, you'll get it there.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Thanks for being with us, Henry. This is your second time on the show. When I first started you on a
Absolutely.
long time ago when I was
Yes.
in another location.
Excuse me, are you Dianne Andrews?
Yes, I am.
I'm Darius. I'm here to attend your leadership speech.
Oh, thank you for coming. That's wonderful. What's your major? You're in college, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you majoring in?
Construction management.
I tell you, then this leadership management speech that I'm going to do will do you a lot of good.
Well, I always watch your show.
Oh, good. I'm on television and YouTube. I appreciate you watching. Are you headed to the event right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Come on, let's walk together and I can teach you and tell you some things about leadership and management.
Perfect.
Come on, let's go.
How do you see the world?
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, we know that changing how you see things can turn them into
everyday miracles,
like riding my bike,
breaking boards, hugging my mom.
Every day for over 90 years, Shriners Hospitals for Children has been sending love to the rescue, regardless of a family's ability to pay.
If you know a child we can help, call or go online now.